Hello, hello, and welcome to another episode of Leveraging Operations in Leadership. And we are continuing this series that we started where we're talking about burnout relief. And we are actually to the end. This is our last person that we are talking to that we'll be wrapping up this series with. And this is someone that I have wanted to interview for a while, and no fault of hers, all mine. But we are here now. We are here now to talk about this topic that is really near and dear to my heart. So I want to make sure that we were able to give you different perspectives and different input and different resources so you know where to go. I'm going to have you introduce yourself to everyone.
Well, thank you for having me, Tanya. I always love to talk about burnout, but I really love to talk to people that I know are passionate and are impactful and matter in my life as well. But as you said, my name is Erayna Sargent. I am a burnout relief strategist. So I help high achieving, ambitious professionals and their teams build systems of relief into the everyday ways that they work, live, and lead. This is not what I plan to do with my life. Like, at all. Never thought about it. I'm a classically trained brand marketer. So I actually started my career in workspace design, moved into consumer goods, moved into tech. I've worked at some of the world's biggest companies like Nestle. I've worked at early stage startups as well as creating my own company, Hooky Wellness. And in 2017, this part of my life started because I started to recognize what now I came to learn were symptoms and signs of burnout. And as I started to progress in my relief journey, I looked around and realized how like rampant it was in all conditions. And so I leveraged my MBA and my background experience in marketing and innovation to build Hooky Wellness, which is a professional development studio specializing in burnout education and relief. And I like to blend the tools of mental wellness and fuse it with design thinking so that people have true frameworks, digestible language, and iterative process to build relief into their lives, into the way that they need. And so I've had the opportunity since I started Hooky, really in 2020. I've worked with amazing companies, everything from Netflix, Microsoft, Estee Lauder, as well as Teach for America, the New Jersey Prevention Network. And so I also get to talk to these nonprofits and service-based organizations that are doing like ripple effect work
Mhm.
and really ensuring that they learn to take care of themselves along the way. So that is a snapshot. It has been a journey. I have had my experiences along the way, and I look forward to talking about them as well as what I've learned by working with all of these professionals across the years.
Absolutely. So you hit on a couple of different points. So I want to thank you for that. So we have a couple of different directions that we could go. But what made you really say this is the work that I'm going to do? Like what was that pin in the just said this is it?
Before I jump into that, can I say I gotta give you a props. Thank you for representing. I always love to see them in the wild. It's one of those little things that can create a ripple effect and start a lot of convos, which I know we can get into. But I just had to say that before I forgot. But when it comes to how did I get into this work, yeah, I kept burning out. And so what really cemented the need for me to work and try to work towards an impact in this space is my therapist put me on timeout. And she did this while I was in the midst of taking short term disability leave. There was a lot of lifing. I had hit a point where working harder was no longer working, is how I like to say it, but I had no idea what to do with it. And then I was also dealing with an aging, ailing father who was dealing with cancer. We were moving back and forth around the country because why not sprinkle that in there? And so I took leave. And in that first week, I went to therapy and she asked me how it was going. And I told her the truth that I was still working. I had like put down my daytime laptop and I picked up my like personal laptop as I was starting to think about entrepreneurship. And she said, that's not what we're here for. And so that was one big piece of it of like my own understanding of how hard it is to slow down or do things differently or
Hmm.
take a break, even when you know that you need it.
Hmm.
And then that was compounded with, on the other end, I, at work, people just bring me stuff. I hear people's life stories. I appreciate being a safe space. And so we were going to an offsite for work, and I was in the car with two coworkers, and one of them was talking about how she had the next day when we were coming back, she was like, I have that afternoon to myself. My son will be in school, my husband's out of town. I'm going to take care of myself. I'm going to get a massage. And so we spent like the ride talking about massages and self care and what she could do and blah, 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 blah. The next morning, I come down and she's like, my son is sick and can't go to school, so I'm not going to get my time. And we spent 30 minutes before the session started, like just trying to brainstorm who could support, what could we do.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we left, she was telling me like, "Thank you for talking, but I don't know what I'm gonna do." 3 hours later, I get a text and it's a picture of her saying, "I just went to this spa on my way home and got the most amazing massage," and like she fitted in before her day. And so
Okay.
those two paths together of like my own personal experience of how hard it is, and then being a source of support and relief, and then having people actually take care of themselves, those two things were like, you should do something here. So that's
Yeah.
really like how I started. And so over the years, the business has evolved. So the original business plan was actually physical space. And then 2020 and COVID had a lot to do with that. So continuing with evolution, that is how Hooky Wellness turned into the workshops, specialized programming, and relief centered support that I've been doing for organizations, teams, and community groups.
Yeah. So you experienced burnout yourself, right?
Yes,
So listen, no judgment here because I've been through it more than once.
they
So
can
I
judge all they
definitely want to talk
want.
about like how do we stop this? But how do people define like how do you define burnout and how can people tell that this is even something that may be an issue for them?
Absolutely. So people can judge all they want, but the stats have shown 85% of people deal with burnout on more than one instance or episode. It is a reoccurring, very situationally based experience.
Okay.
There are plenty of things that you can or shouldn't do to prevent, accelerate, mitigate, manage, prevent, but the environments in which we are in are not helping us at all. And some of them
Mm,
are a lot more burnout prone than others. But when it comes to the definition, the one that I love the most is burnout is the source of mental, physical, and emotional exhaustion brought on by chronic, unmanaged stress. I like that definition the most because it shows how all encompassing it is. It shows that what it's a result of. It shows that it is not a one and done. Because so often people equate burnout and stress as the same thing. And even stress alone isn't a zero sum game. There's actually a stress curve where it's everything from too little stress to too much stress. And that
mm,
too little stress, optimal stress, which is a real thing, and then too much, which that turns into burnout cycle in itself. And so how you can start to see this, the signs, like it happens around emotional, mental, and cognitive different spectrums. But one of the earliest warning signs is complete exhaustion, which honestly, who is not there right about now? But this isn't just, I need a nap. This is like, I am feeling it in my bones, and no amount of sleep is helping me feel refueled. So
yes.
it's deeper than just, I need a nap. You're right.
That's
Uh,
how I felt. Like,
yeah. And that's how it starts. And it's one of those things you can ignore because you're like, I'm just tired. Uh,
mm,
but if you're saying that every day or like
yeah.
plus times a week, that's something to notice because feeling tired is actually a warning sign for a number of things, not just
Yeah.
burnout. So that is one of the biggest. Neglecting needs is another basic need. So not eating, not sleeping, not connecting or speaking to people, pulling away from the things that replenish you or bring you joy are some of
Mm,
those early signs. Then you start to see in the later stages, you start to see people using things that can be recreationally fun, but using them more as a crutch or a way
mm,
to escape,
okay.
and creating really unhealthy habits there. There's a superhero complex that a lot of people double down on, which is, well, I have to do it because no one can do it as good as me. Everybody sucks.
Ooh.
Everybody's toxic. Yeah, I'm saying it.
You know, I work with leaders, so that's a big one.
Yes, everybody. Like if you're saying every, like generally sweeping, unless there are times where that is the case,
Yeah.
but a lot. What we often see is people just keep adding on stress to themselves, and it changes their projection onto others. And then in the later stages, you start to see, especially that internal shift or that internal, what am I doing this for? All is for naught. And that can create a very deep, long journey to get out of it and can also start triggering, amplifying, or uncovering some other latent mental health, physical issues. So it can create them and it can highlight them. So a lot
Mm,
of anxiety and depression, those are like close cousins. They like
yeah.
stay connected. even though we don't like it. Pre-existing conditions can also increase your propensity to be dealing with burnout. Like if you're neurospicy like me, ADHD and burnout, I don't know, I don't like them, but they are fast friends and frenemies a little bit. One creates
Mm,
the other. But really paying attention to what are your warning signs of when this stress is not normal stress. So
right.
for me, it shows up in my body first. I always have muscle tension. Like I work at a desk. I got a kid that I pick up. I got a lot of other stuff that I am carrying, and
Yeah.
so I'm used to carrying stress in my muscles, which is not good in the first place. But there's a threshold where I'm like, oh boy, something is going off, and it's
Hmm.
really a sign that other stressors in the environment are impacting me, and that is often a sign for others. If you are finding yourself unable to focus, if you are finding yourself unable to think, cognitive fog is a very real thing, and it's a very dangerous thing for
Hmm.
leaders of work, because if you don't have your brain, like how do you do the work you do? And it
Right.
makes everything harder. So those are some signs and some other thoughts around it, and to be aware of it.
Yeah. So the people, most of the people that listen to this podcast are leaders, right? So they are either working in a corporate environment or they own their own business.
Mhm.
So both of those environments come with a lot of
Yeah.
stress, right? And I know that they're not the only people that deal with it, but I just want to say that when I look back, and usually it happens after you, for me, after I went through my second bout of burnout, not the first one, right? The second bout of burnout, I was able to look around and like, oh my God, I'm not the only one.
Mhm.
Like there's so many people. And what really did it for me was I had employees that were coming to me and were telling me some of the things that they were feeling that I felt. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is real.
Mhm.
It's not just a leadership thing. It's happening all around me. And then I started wearing this shirt out. I wore this shirt out a couple of times, and I just have to tell you, first of all, it's a conversation starter, which tells me that there is a lot of people that are experiencing it because
Yeah.
it people are just drawn to this. But there were two conversations that really took me by surprise, right? And when I say out, I was in shopping. One was in Costco and one was in Publix. And this guy, he had on his, I don't remember where he worked, but he had on a uniform and he was like, that right there, that's it. Like he was like, and I'm like, what? Because I forgot. He was like, that shirt. He was like, oh my gosh. You know what I mean? And it let me know that first of all, people need to understand that they're not alone because I know when I did it, originally I thought that it was just me. It was something that I just experienced that I caused. It was not something that was as prevalent as it was. But then I go to Publix, shopping is a pleasure, and I'm shopping and the lady was like, oh my God. She was like, your shirt. She was like, oh man. And she goes into telling me about her life in
Wow.
the Publix line. And it just goes to show we are at a time where we can no longer ignore the
Mm.
symptoms. So we have to be really cognizant of what are the symptoms for me? Like you gave some examples of the symptoms, like just understanding in tune with our body, in tune with our emotions, in tune with what's going on,
Yeah.
and not continuing to shove things to the side, but really figuring out how to address it. Right. So for me, that's not my area of expertise, which is why I did this series, but it's really close to me because I have experienced it, and many of the people that I work with have gone through it or are going through it. So I thought that it was an important enough topic to really talk about. But as I'm talking to her, I'm like, I can listen, I can, whatever, but probably not the person.
Yeah. Well,
Probably not the person.
bring up the point with that. When it comes to leaders, there's a few things that I like to highlight. This is my point of view. There are people with differing points of view, and they can have them as they want. Yes, 70% of an employee's experience is based off of their leadership. But that does not mean that it is purely your responsibility to prevent or to fix their burnout. It
Right.
is your responsibility to set up systems and have the support that they can work in the way that they need. It is your responsibility to ensure, where possible, there is transparency and clarity of expectations of what is expected, what a success looks like, as well as the way that they work. It is part of your responsibility to encourage your teams to take care of themselves as part of the process, as part of the plan. When you are in a corporate environment, highlighting the benefits and just making sure they're looking at those emails that typically get ignored from HR.
Yeah.
Also, illustrating it yourself. It is your responsibility to take care of yourself as not only to take care of yourself, but also as an illustration of what is possible in the leadership role. But so often it gets conflated and it's like it's your responsibility. All you got to do is talk to the leader, and the leaders are dealing with the pressure from above, the pressure from below, like below, the pressure from around, and the pressure from within. And
Yeah.
so taking care of yourself and illustrating that your team should, while also ensuring that we all know the resources for support that are out there, is one of the reasons that I like to talk to leaders, especially because you are where everything happens. Like,
Hmm.
there's a lot of
Hmm.
conversation about C suite and a lot of support with the big consulting firms. But when it comes down to brass tacks and your team's burning out and needing to replace them because that people think that's their only solution, but it's very expensive, it is the day-to-day manager that has to figure out how the work gets done and how to make sure that everything doesn't fall apart. So yes, I love to talk to leaders because they are the ripple effect in the place of change of how we start to create more systems of relief, how we start to change the way in which we work, and how we actually feel supported, secure, and confident that change and doing things differently is even possible. So
Yeah.
often people are like, I want to take care of myself, but I don't have a choice. You may not have the largest choice. Maybe you can't just quit your job or you can't just go on sabbatical, but if you
Hmm.
have it, use it. But you can scope down a project. You can
Hmm.
create a buffer into the way that you work. So if somebody's asking, you can create boundaries, but your boundaries don't have to be like announced. That can be someone asking you, "Hey, I need this." And you're like, "Okay, heard. I'll get you that next Thursday." There's a boundary, which is I'm not about to act like everything's a fire drill.
Hmm.
Now, if they need it urgently, they can ask for it. But so often, a lot of stuff is self-imposed because it's just automatic. It's like someone needs it, I'm gonna get it right away. You're like, but is it urgent though?
Right.
Don't you already have a list of stuff to do? So how are you going to make sure that you're still breathing at the end of the day?
Yeah. So you said something extremely huge, which when I figured it out, it was huge for my team, right? So first of all, I was happy that my team felt comfortable enough coming to me, sharing with me. Like to me, that's a plus, right? But then we do take the onus on ourselves. It's like, okay, so what do I do? One of the biggest things I did was to walk the walk,
Mm, that's what
which I have to say in front of everybody was probably one of the hardest things I did, right? So if I'm not expecting you to check emails 7 o'clock at night, then I'm not sending you emails 7 o'clock at night. You understand what I mean? Because what I find is that even though you say it and you set the expectation and you let them know this isn't a requirement that you skip dinner with your family in order to respond to emails, you have some people that are just high achievers and high performers, and they're going to do it anyway. So,
yeah,
what I did was I scheduled mine to go out the next day, or I just don't send it because I know you sitting on the other side and you're going to get a ding and you're going to respond. So, I feel that there are certain things that we have to do, right? So, number one, I had to stop working through dinner. I had to show them what boundaries look like, you know what I mean? And what I found is that started to like let go the guard. Like they were like, oh, she's doing it. Like,
yeah,
oh, okay, I can't say no. Oh, okay. Because a lot of times we in certain corporate environments, it's really structured, right? And I'm coming from the outside. I walk into this environment. I don't know a lot of the stuff that happened before, but I'm like, it's almost like some people, I'm like, were they abused before I
yes,
got here? Like,
yes,
and mentally, yeah,
yes. People are.
that is the short answer. So that was the main thing that I had to do was I had to walk the walk. You know what I mean? And I'm one of those where If I got free time, I'm sitting there and I'm working or whatever. But I don't want you to feel like you have to. So I'm not going to be sending you stuff. And I know as leaders, we are overwhelmed and we have a lot going on, but one-on-ones are your friend.
Mhm.
It gives people an opportunity to share with you, because you're touching base, right? And you're talking about you got five things on your plate. Here, how are you doing with that? Do you need some help? And being able to have those conversations and asking those questions, whereas some people
Oh yeah.
wouldn't tell you. You understand what I mean? And when I was in corporate, we didn't have like how you go to corporations and talk about burnout. That wasn't like a big thing. We hired consultants, but they came in and we were doing strategic planning and all of that stuff like that. So for us as the leadership team, we weren't talking about it amongst ourselves. Even though I had burned out, I wasn't sitting there having conversations with other leaders
No,
about, girl,
not that. Like it's like if you talk about it, it seems like you're bragging about it, but it's not that. It's like how do we do something differently? But you had a so the scheduling emails is a big thing that I recommend to people because I will admit, like I need to work when my brain is working. So sometimes that is at night. And if that is how it is, that doesn't mean that you have to pass it forward. So scheduling emails is a big one.
yeah.
Even if you don't schedule, which I do want people to schedule, you can tell your team, hey, this is how I work. And like I go, and especially if you're doing that because you have another boundary. I come home and I'm with my family from this time to this time. So I am offline. So I pick up my laptop later. And if that is the case, sometimes you send them. But you can communicate that to people in a way that's
Mhm.
not like, that still is, I don't expect you to respond. This is just how I
Exactly.
need to get it out. But I do highly recommend scheduling where possible. The other thing I will just say is having some caution with the conversations that we have
Mhm.
because it is not your role to be a therapist, but it
Right.
is your role to support. And so I always find if my big thing is like how to detour people to support. So if
Mhm.
someone is opening up truly about some deep emotional stuff, you want to give them space to be heard, but you're not equipped to help them
Nope.
with that. And so highlighting, do you have EAP where people can get free therapy and like
Yep.
help to find the person? Do you have mental health apps like Headspace is a big one to help people decompress? Can you tell them, hey, take a walk, go get some fresh air, or I'll take this off your plate. You don't have to go to this meeting, or you can do this as an email. Like little things like that can help reduce the pressure. And I like to highlight to people because we often
Mhm.
overlook it as well. So
Yeah.
those are a couple things that you just spark with me. I'm like, yeah, this is a rich space, and no one is equipped. Like, very few people are equipped. This I've been to hundreds of trainings, and this was never one of them. And so that's part of why that was a large part of why I started to do this work because no one had the language, but everyone was experiencing it in their little bubble without
Yeah.
also without understanding of the ripple effect it has on other people. Like Burnout and I go way back. I did not know who it was, but there was an episode. Jesus, I might age myself, but it's the truth. 20 years ago is the first one that I'm like, oh crap, that was Burnout. I was like, I was doing all the most because that's who I am. So I had a job, I had a side job, and I also started a nonprofit, and I was on a board because why not? And so it caught up to me, and I was studying for the GMAT, but it caught up to me. And so, as the founder of this nonprofit, like I was bringing my stress into my steering committee meetings. And so, my
Mm.
chair, like, it is one of the best, most important leadership conversations I've ever had in my life. And I even told him thank you for it. He called me and was like, yo, what is up? Like, the energy that you were bringing in, you do not feel as present. Like, and it is
Mhm.
affecting other people on the team.
Mm.
That just opened my eyes because you get so set on dealing with what you're dealing with that you forget how others can feel it and it impacts them and can create. And so that's
Right.
also one of the things of like why it is so important for leaders to take care of themselves
Mhm.
because in running yourself into the ground, you are having a much greater impact than you will even realize. Like you think you're trying to help, but you actually might be hindering more than you realize.
Mhm.
So yeah, you just sparked that memory for me.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. No, I just remember those days. And now I'm working on the flip side where, in my business, when I work with leaders, and some of the things that they say, I'm like, but I'm making sure to let them know here are systems that we're putting in because we're talking about your capacity, your business, or whatever it is. Here's some other things that you may want to address outside of here because like you said, we're not all equipped to handle certain conversations. And I want to make sure that people go where they can get the resources and what it is that they need so that they can move forward instead of me pretending that I know it all, right? Because I know my burnout, I know how it affected me, I know how it affects other leaders that I have worked with. It's not an area that I study
Yeah.
like in just because you know something about it doesn't mean that it's something that I should be doing, you know what I mean, or want to be doing, but I do want to make sure that the leaders that I work with get help.
Yes. I mean,
So
you don't
let's
sit and
talk
read the
about
white
that.
papers
Okay.
like me? You don't sit around reading all the white papers that just
No, no, no. Every now and then I come across an article, because I subscribe to the Harvard Review and I read, I'm like, oh, okay, but no, I leave that to the experts.
Yeah, it is very multifaceted, which for me, I like to just learn from different spaces. So sometimes it is like HBS, sometimes it's mental health research, sometimes it's the National Institute of Health, sometimes it's the Global Institutes of Wellness. Like
Mm,
it is truly like multidisciplinary because
yeah,
burnout can affect you in so many ways and can be driven in so many ways. And that is really a big, like, that's why I do what I do. And so, especially for leaders, like, you already got stuff to do. Like, you have to learn and then teach in that space. So, I created
yeah,
my navigating burnout program for teams and leaders, and it really helps people create the language and recognize the early warning signs of burnout or all the warning signs of burnout, building like your accountability squad or your support network across mental health and wellness and professional. I'm all about building in enablement and what are the tools and the resources. And it's all about choice. So, understanding the tools of relief, both from a world of mental wellness, from a professional development, from an environmental standpoint, from a mindset, and like knowing what you have and then building the plan proactively. So, a big thing I'm about is hey,
mm,
look at your next quarter. Is this like a sprint? Or is this a more moderate pace? And then building the relief strategy within it. So, do you need extra support in this period? Do you need extra accountability in this period? Do you need to really tap into your relief levers, like the ways that you are going to offset the stress that you see coming? That is why I do that work because everything has been so reactive, but it's
right.
don't know stress is coming. So I'm all about like both as an individual, but as a team, building those things in advance. So for a leader, they're able to say, hey, I'm gonna, you know what, I'm gonna ask for additional hands for this period for my team in some way. Or, hey team, we have this big project coming up. How do we set up our time off at this right after this milestone, not only so that we all get a little bit of a break and a breather, but also so that it is staggered so there's some level of coverage while we're doing this, or as well as like, hey, what are all of the benefits that we have so that we can have that awareness of if then that. I've even set up some with some of my clients, like creating their own accountability buddy system. So after our programming has like completed, how do they ensure that they keep doing these things?
I love that.
Not one and done, but it is a different way of thinking. But like we build strategies, but we don't, and plans, but we don't pay attention to how we're going to take care of ourselves. Like
That's so true.
violent. Like they're not just like, here's your plan. It's like, here's your stretch plan that we're gonna say it's a stretch plan, but it's really your plan, and I expect for you to do it. But I'm not gonna give you any more resources. And oh yeah, we might have even cut them. Like you can't walk into that without
Right,
understanding and trying to prepare for the stress that comes. Like you can't just run away. So how are you
right.
gonna manage within? So yeah, I as you can tell, I get excited talking about this stuff. I'm like trying to help.
So,
Nothing's
but I
happening
love it.
now.
And I really like where you talk about the accountability piece, right? And I feel that that's important
Mhm.
because one of the things that I ran into is like for myself the first time. And also I see it in other leaders where they don't want to say no,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Or they don't want to institute boundaries because they feel like that may prompt an uncomfortable conversation. You know what I mean? And like you said, all boundaries don't have to be shared, but there are times you have to share your boundaries, right? If the expectation is X and you know that's outside of your boundary, then you have to have that conversation.
Yeah.
So, are there tools, are there recommendations or things that you could do to kind of help people along in that area?
Yeah. So I'm like, how real are we about to be? Um,
Real.
yeah, we're just gonna do it. That's what our conversations are for. So I have been doing some version of this work since the end of 2018.
Okay.
Some version. And how I recommend people take care of themselves has evolved throughout this time. 2020 through 2023, a lot more agency was we had the ability to practice a lot more agency within our working environments. We could try new things, we could push back, we could own our self-care in a different way. That was very positive and was actually showing up in the results of how people were getting being productive while also taking care of themselves. Now, I say a lot of the same things with some caveats because I am team keep your job if you need your job, but I am also team take care of yourself and do
Hmm.
not sacrifice yourself. So it is
Hmm.
a little bit of a balance, but that is also why I'm big on like all boundaries don't need to be talked about. Like they don't need to know you're closing your laptop at 5:30. Your laptop is just closed at 5:30. You get to it in the morning. Now, you always have to have some call outs if there is something urgent that you know you need to get it done,
Hmm.
but you don't need to tell people, "Hey, I'm offline." Like don't tell them every day. That's bringing attention to yourself. Like
Hmm.
you are potentially creating an issue because some organizations are not here for right now. They are not in favor of their employees. There are a lot of them. There are still a lot of organizations that do really care and meant what they said over these past few years. And there's a ton of great leaders that are trying their hardest. But there are those places where it's like you speak up and it's not going to do well for you. So one that is where it's like be just pay attention and be strategic in how you
Hmm.
communicate, practice, and enforce your boundaries. You need to
Hmm.
have them, but you can have them in different ways. You can,
Hmm.
I like even have different scripts of like, how do you basically say no to your peer, to your manager, and to your leader? It is not the same language. Like a peer, you might be like, yeah, I'm going to get to that next week. To a
Hmm.
leader, that could be a conversation more of, okay, completely heard. I understand that. Would love to understand how this falls into the list of priorities.
That's right.
That's a very different way, but ultimately you saying something's got to give.
Right.
Like so you that is something that you have to be cognizant of, especially in today. Utilizing your benefits. Like your PTO is part of your financial compensation. That is one that is still readily available. I haven't seen as much conversation or craziness with it. So use it liberally. Use it
Hmm.
proactively. Do not
Hmm.
wait until, oh, I can take off 2 weeks and that's the only way I take a break. No, I'm gonna need you to spread in some
Yeah.
hooky days. I'm gonna need you to spread in a I'm just doing whatever I want to do day. I'm catching my breath. Like spread those throughout. Another thing that often gets overlooked until you have no other choice is leave and short-term disability leave. And so there you can take it for stress and burnout. Like that is how I took it, and a lot more people have been doing it.
Hmm.
But let me tell you, it has been slightly alarming over the past like 6 months to hear of organizations laying people off in the midst of leave or people
Hmm.
coming back from leave and automatically getting dinged or being all of a sudden on the performance plan. So things of that nature. So if you are taking one, I still recommend these are tools and ways to manage your relief. And sometimes that's all you can do is
Right.
to take leave and take a break. But do it knowingly, understanding the environment in which you are in. Pay attention that I'm not saying continue to sacrifice yourself for it.
Hmm.
But if you are in an organization and you are like, they are wilding, I don't, and you see what the path in the future is telling you, this is a way to conserve and to repair, take it knowingly that there might be some BS on the back end. Just preparing, warm up your network if that is something that you need to be doing. You shouldn't be working on leave. Just pay attention to the rules of it. But also be aware. Like if you have to pull that lever, just be cognizant of the impact that it can have and how your organization is managing that right now. Some are
Hmm.
fine, some are still fine, but some are
Hmm.
playing.
Right.
Um, but once again, it does not mean don't do it. It just means do things knowingly and with support and a net underneath it. So the things that I do say, the phrasing I like to say is buffer, boundaries, buddy, and bow out. So your buffer is as simple as, hey, when you get timeline, or if you're creating timelines or you get requests, build in a buffer. So add another day or two to when
Mhm.
you'll return it. That
Mhm.
automatically gives you some breathing room. So
Yeah.
even if you feel confident you can get it done by Thursday, say Tuesday. And if they don't push back, you now have a space that if you need to push it till Tuesday, you can. But if you can get it done by Thursday, get it off your plate. So adding in buffers where you can. Also, like buffer can be your time off. So if you have a big project going and you see your, you know when your milestone is, then one of your days off, like right after it. Schedule your vacation after this crazy period. So that's how you can do the buffer. If you do the boundaries, I've spoken to that
Mhm.
throughout this conversation. Buddy, you're not supposed to do this by yourself. You're not creating the problems by yourself,
Right.
and you're not supposed to get out of it.
Right.
So personally, I am pro everybody deserves a therapist. So that is something that just have them on standby and
Yeah.
have that relationship before you're like dealing with burnout. But also, like from a wellness standpoint, who is going to help you go take care of your body? What kind of buddy can help you for a self care day? I am all for a hooky day that is all about self care. Like, that's the fun kind of accountability buddy,
Yeah.
the person that you can go to the vent and like let off some stress without being judged.
Right.
Buddies are huge. Community is a big part of the recovery and the mitigation process. And then recognizing when it's time to bow out. I've seen so many people drive themselves into a ground in a situation they will never win. And so that doesn't mean quit your job or run away because you see there's no other choice. If you've done the other things, if you paid attention, you've tried to do it, there might be a time where you have to recognize it is better for you, your sanity, and even sometimes the organization to bow out and make a plan for it rather than an abrupt thing that creates
Right.
change. Because so I've seen so many people over the past few years run into entrepreneurship thinking it's going to help them with burnout. Don't do that. I gotta say, like,
Yeah.
mitigating, managing, preventing burnout in the entrepreneurial space can be
Mhm.
much harder than in a corporate environment when you, especially if you are coming out of a situation where you are dealing with burnout. Like, transitioning into entrepreneurship, that freedom that it can be amazing can also be overwhelming if you like structure. So just be cognizant that running into entrepreneurship is not a solve for burnout. It can make it even harder
Yeah.
um, until you get to the place where you truly feel confident and comfortable creating new systems of working, having a support team. Like there is a ramp
Yeah.
up period that I just want to be very real about.
Yes. Yes. Now that's some truth.
People be like, I want to be
So
an entrepreneur. I'll be like, oh, and stay burned out? And
yeah, you but you make a good point, right? You need to already have some of these things in place because
yeah,
you are going to experience a level of stress
yes.
that you are probably not accustomed to.
Mhm.
So the organizations that you work with, I'm thinking that these are organizations that actually truly care about their employees and that are trying to change the culture of their organizations. Would that be true?
In most cases, I've had the opportunity to work with lovely clients. I've liked a lot of my,
Okay.
yeah, my clients have been awesome. I've had some conversations that I like, are you trying to check a box? But
Okay.
those, no, my clients have been awesome, but they are reflective of a part of the market. But there's also organizations that I've been able, like leaders, like a lot of my stuff also comes from individual leaders that are like, I don't know what's going on out here, but over here, I'm trying to create a safe space for
Hmm.
my team and ensure
Hmm.
that we are equipped, we are prepared, and that we feel supported to do what we need to do. So
Hmm.
even if the organization as a whole isn't on board, isn't doing all of the things right, like you can work to create this space. My husband uses the language the island of sanity. You can create that within. So it
Hmm.
doesn't have to be at a complete org scale. That is the ideal. That ensures like sustainability in creating these new ways of working in relief. But you can create it even if you are a team of two or a team of three. You can start it because what I've also seen in organizations is once one team starts it, other teams see it and they're like, "How you do that?"
Yep.
Yeah. So I even had a client that like they started scheduling quarterly hooky days as a team, and other teams were like, "Wait a minute, y'all like pre-plan time off and talk about it and like figure out how it's going to work." Like they reallocate the workload for those periods of time. So yeah, it's one of those the little things that like everybody wants to do, but we don't feel empowered or know how to do it.
So what type of programs do you have? So I know you do workshops, but what other type of programs do you have for organizations or businesses?
Yeah. So
Right.
I do speaking engagements, so anything as entry as like a fireside chat if you just want to start a conversation and you don't want to have to be the one to do it. Uh,
Mm,
so
I
fireside chats is
like.
workshops that are multi-pronged or programmatic. So navigating burnout is a 10-week program that takes people through it and building their relief plan and understanding it while also giving leaders the language to support their team across. I have a program called Leave Less Stressed, which that is sabbatical support. So long-term breaks anywhere from 1 month to 3 months is like that ideal. So helping people leave and re-enter the workplace without stress, because so often we end up just as frazzled when we come back because we didn't plan for our return.
Yeah.
So helping people do that, not only creating their relief but also leaving relief in the workplace. So like project planning and that type of back end stuff before they leave. And then I've done some specialized programs. My favorite has been a Catch Your Breath, where I built a custom program for entrepreneurs in the city of Charlotte. And that was a multi-tiered event, a program that encompassed a three-part series of events all about mental wellness and support, as well as a cohort for entrepreneurs where we went through the Navigating Burnout program and they built their relief plans as part of their strat plans, created their community of localized support. So I like to just make things relevant and real and actionable. I like to talk and help people educate and understand it, but then it's a matter of, yeah, how do I not just know better? How do I do better?
Hmm. Yeah.
And last but not least, if you just need everyday reminders, I have the Everybody versus Burnout shirt, and then my book, Go Love Yourself, which is an everyday reminder about burnout and the journey back to well through an illustrated storybook. So it
Nice.
doesn't have to be as hard as we make it sometimes, but it doesn't mean it's necessarily easy. And so I make the tools to make it a little bit more simple.
Good. Yeah, because this is something that many of us could use.
Yeah.
So if you had to leave us with one, because
Ooh.
I know you have a lot of tips, right? You have shared a lot. There's a lot of tips. If you had to leave us just with one thought about anything, what would it be in terms of burnout?
Ooh. Honestly, it's a lot easier to beat burnout if you stay ahead of it. So just the idea of not waiting until it gets bad enough, which I can't tell you how many times I heard that as the reason they haven't started to get support. But
Yeah.
recovering from burnout can take weeks, months, and years. Like burnout can spiral into other things that can
Hmm.
have long term lasting and costly impacts. And so the thing is, you don't have to wait until you feel bad. You don't need to do something to earn taking care of yourself or to create boundaries or to start to use your voice in different ways or creating accountability. Like, you need this today. If you live in 2026, you
Okay.
need this. And
Yeah.
so it's really about creating the systems of relief and like not viewing it as a negative to yourself, but truly like it's the part of the plan no one told us about. They just let us burn out and say it was your problem. So yeah, yeah,
So
that's
true.
the last thought I would say.
But it's true. It is true. But I love your approach, right? Start doing something about it now. You
Ooh,
know what I mean? Start
it's
implementing
fun.
things now. Because it's tough out here. That's all I got.
It's
It's tough out here, and there's a lot going on. So, I talk to people from a leadership perspective, right? But that's only one part of people's lives.
mhm.
You know what I mean? So you have people that are leaders, and then they have kids, they're caretakers, they got they have a business on the side, they got all these other things going, kind of like how you've had in the past, right? So it's kind of a matter of how do I prevent myself from getting to that state and allow myself to get some relief along the way instead of waiting until because when I'll say this, when I hit that level of exhaustion, like you said, I could sleep. There was day I could sleep the whole day and still wake up and I'm tired. I'm just tired. So you don't want to get to that point.
Yeah, because you get to a point where all you can do is stop, but
Yeah,
life doesn't stop. And so then now you got this conflict of how do I stop? But when I can't stop, and you're like, well, if you would, the whole plan is adjust your pace so that you can catch your breath. Like think about it as running, which I still don't do, but there's a reason that there are sprints and different paces of a race. Like you need to
right.
slow down if it's harder. Like if you're going uphill, you're going slower, but we don't function like that in our lives. So if you see, I call them accelerators. If you see accelerators in your life turning up, like if you're like me and like to just constantly move and restart, or if you have some family changes, if you have other life changes, if you have health issues, if you live in 2026 and you pay attention, like your bandwidth is affected by it. So that means what you can do with the remaining bandwidth is affected by it. So
Hmm.
just evolving based on what you have to give, and then allowing yourself to do that, giving yourself permission to evolve and to change. If you don't take on that extra assignment or you don't raise your hand for this today, that doesn't mean that you're a failure. It doesn't mean that you won't ever be able to do that. Like, just in this season, I'm gonna need you to sit down a little bit more. Like, someone else
Right.
can cover it and you can come back in a few months and pick up where you left off. But
Right.
giving yourself that space to breathe is the only way that you can do whatever is in your head to get done.
Right. I love that. I love that perspective, and I thank you for it. So before we wrap up, is there anything else that you want to share that's on your heart that you want to leave us with?
Oh boy. One, thank you again for having me on. I just want
Absolutely.
to reinforce you're not in the journey alone. Like, burnout is something that impacts over 98% of professionals, so let's stop acting
Ooh,
like it's one person or just you. Being able to bring some vocabulary and conversation, and even as simple as like highlighting something you did to take care of yourself or something you did not accept or do, that just illustrates for others what they're capable of. And
hmm.
then I would love to be connected. So I'm on LinkedIn. That is one of my main platforms right now. And Instagram, I'm Chill Sargent. And then if you are looking for support for yourself or your team, just give me a holler. Check out my sites and my links. And if there's something that I don't have that you're like, oh, girl, can you help me with this? Just shoot me a DM and we can talk. So whether you want support for your team or yourself, I'm here to help as a relief strategist because that's all we got in this in this day.
I know that's right. Very nice. So I'm going to make sure for everyone that all of the links are in the show notes. So you'll be able to go to the show notes. And then we have a resource that you're going to provide for us. So people will be able to go head over and get that as well.
Absolutely. Definitely have access to the burnout quiz so you can get a quick assessment of where you might be in the journey, as well as some tools for what you can do about it.
Oh, that's helpful.
Yeah, someone we gotta have a
Oh,
place to start because it can get overwhelming. So, step one,
that's
figure out
helpful.
what you
Oh, I
want.
like that. I'm gonna have to take that quiz, see where I am.
All right.
Thank you so much for joining me. This has been an awesome conversation. Thank you, everyone that has watched this series. And be sure to leave us messages, share any information with us, provide us with feedback. And again, I'm going to have all of Erayna's information in the show notes so you can head over and follow her and get additional information specifically about burnout. So thank you so much.
Thanks. Have a good
All
one.
right.